This morning, for the first time in the world, as far as I know, a vaccine against the new coronavirus was registered. And it is quite effective. It gives sustainable immunity. I know this very well because one of my own daughters was given a dose of the vaccine. In this sense, she took part in the experiment. After the first injection, after the first vaccination, she had a temperature of 38 degrees Celsius. The next day, a little over 37, and that's it. After the second injection, the second vaccination, her temperature also rose a little, but then it subsided. She feels good.
Well, there you heard it. Today, Russia became the first country to register a vaccine against the coronavirus, a vaccine that has not been tried, a vaccine that has not been tested outside of Russia, a vaccine that Russian President Putin says is so effective, even his daughter has received an injection. Well, worldwide, the number of people infected with the coronavirus has now reached 20 million. It comes as researchers around the world are moving at unprecedented speeds to develop a vaccine. Scientists say the earliest that a vaccine could be ready would be early 2021 after all trials are completed and the vaccine is determined to be safe and effective. Those rules apply everywhere, except apparently in Russia. Well, my next guest tonight says that Russia and China have violated medical ethics in their rush to develop a coronavirus vaccine. Lawrence Gostin is professor of global health law at Georgetown University and director of the WHO Center on Public Health and Human Rights. He joins me tonight from Washington, D.C. Professor Gostin, it's good to have you on the day. If you were offered this Russian vaccine, would you take it?
I absolutely would not take it, and I would recommend anyone in Russia or other places in the world where Russia may try to export this vaccine to take it. We have ethical standards and scientific standards for vaccines for a good reason. Because if we don't let science take its course, we could end up with something that is highly dangerous. In my view, Vladimir Putin is taking a reckless step that could be a gamble for the safety and health of the Russian people.
Well, what do you make of Vladimir Putin saying that his daughter has been given the vaccine and that it works? And why do you say that Russia has acted unethically?
Well, first of all, having his daughter be experimented with an investigational vaccine is just it made me shudder, as a parent and a grandparent, to think that I would expose my child to an unproven vaccine that could have severe dangerous effects is the height of irresponsibility. Russia has acted against all international ethical and legal standards. First of all, even in the early trials, Russia was experimenting with this on Russian soldiers who have questionable ability to say no and to give informed consent. But way beyond that, we already have 8 trials globally, including in China, Europe, and the United States, that are currently in phase 3 trials. These are large-scale population trials against a placebo. Until something is shown to be safe and effective in these large-scale trials, no regulatory agency worth a salt would approve it, because it could make COVID more dangerous. It could be less effective. It could cause deaths. And so it's the height of unethical international standards to rush to a vaccine. This is not, we don't want to be the first to get a vaccine. We want to be the best vaccine we can get.
Well, can anyone prevent Russia from selling this vaccine on the global market? I mean, I know that the FDA could prevent it from being sold in the U.S., but what about the rest of the world?
Well, if any country has a as a good government and has a reliable regulatory agency like the European Medicines Agency or the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, they would absolutely not allow that drug onto the market and allow it to be distributed or sold in their country. That would be the right thing to do. The World Health Organization has strongly urged Russia to be slow, to follow international scientific principles. But even the WHO has not been able to independently verify these data. The Institute has not shared its trial data with anyone. It's not been published in any peer-reviewed journal. Just a couple of weeks ago, there were promising phase 2 trials for an Oxford and Wuhan vaccine, which showed to the scientific community, here are my data, and we've said they look good. There's been no transparency out of Russia, no accountability. And to compare this to kind of the race to the moon or a Sputnik moment or to bang your chest as a nationalist, populist, strongman leader, that worries me a great deal.
Professor, we know that the fastest that a vaccine analogous to this new coronavirus vaccine has been developed it took about 4 years. We have been told to expect a vaccine early next year. Do you think that will happen?
Yes, I do. There are now, as I mentioned, 8 vaccines globally that are in phase 3 clinical trials. They've all been shown to be effective in early phase 1 and phase 2 trials. We have a lot of optimism about the vaccine. I think it's possible that by the first or second quarter of 2021, we will see 1 or more vaccines on the market. That does not mean that the vaccines are going to be a magic bullet. I really do not believe that's the case. But I think that they could confer partial immunity. And COVID's going to be here throughout all of our lifetimes in every country. But we're going to learn to manage and live with it. Partly it'll be a vaccine that'll be at least partially effective, perhaps like the flu vaccine. It'll partly be because we'll have better treatments, and it'll partly be because people have been infected and have some immune remembrance of this virus. But it's not going away anytime soon.
Well, we've surpassed the 20 million cases mark worldwide, and the United States, it remains the epicenter of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Do you understand why the U.S. cannot get this virus under control? Sure.
We've done everything wrong, and it starts with leadership in the White House. If you were to ask me what is the one thing that countries who've succeeded, what have they done that the United States hasn't done, and that I would say the answer to that is follow science, have trust in public health agencies, and have a consistent message that you need to wear masks and socially distance. The U.S. hasn't done that. The president has personally undermined the CDC and other public health agencies and scientists in his own administration. The public are confused. They're not following scientific advice to wear masks, to be physically distant, to have personal hygiene. Our testing rollout was really very poor, and we simply just let it get out of control while we deflected blame to China or to the World Health Organization, which I think is unconscionable to put a great organization like the WHO in the middle of a geopolitical struggle. That's just intolerable.
I've got about 1 minute left, Professor. I want to ask you, this race to develop a vaccine, do you think we have so many people involved racing to be the first because they see the vaccine as being a cash cow once it's there?
I think it's partly a cash cow, partly it's legitimate because we're undergoing a terrible health crisis. But a lot of it has to do with kind of strong men leaders thumping their chest. Vladimir Putin, President Trump, Xi Jinping in China. So that worries me, the idea of a Sputnik 5 from Russia or Operation Warp Speed from the United States. That's not the way science operates.
Okay. Professor Lawrence Gostin, director of the WHO Center on Public Health and Human Rights. Professor Gostin, we appreciate your time and your insights tonight. That valuable information. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for your information, too. Bye.